Right now, while you're watching this video, another American just became a millionaire. Then another. In 2025 alone, this country added more than 2,200 new millionaires every single day, the fastest wealth boom in American history. Sounds incredible, right? Except here's the part nobody's talking about. Most of them don't feel rich, not even close. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why, because it might already be happening to you. Hey, I'm Henry, and if you're into personal finance content, you've probably watched a dozen videos about hitting the $1 million mark. This isn't going to be one of those videos. I'm not here to sell you a shortcut or some hustle nobody's heard of. Today, we're talking about what actually happens after you get there, the parts nobody puts in the highlight reel, the parts that don't make for a great caption. So let's start with that number I just mentioned. A few years ago, surveys showed that Americans needed around $2 million in net worth before they'd finally say, okay, now I feel wealthy. That number already sounded high. But newer research puts the current number at $5.3 million. That's not a typo. In just a few years, the finish line for feeling financially successful nearly tripled. So if you're out there thinking, I'll finally relax once I hit my number, I need you to hear this. The number keeps moving. And if you don't understand why, it can quietly mess with your head for years. Today, I want to walk you through 7 things that nobody tells you about actually becoming wealthy, the psychology, the research, the relationship stuff, and the identity stuff. Because once you understand what this journey really looks like on the inside, you're in a much better position to build wealth without losing your mind along the way. Here's the first thing nobody tells you. The moment itself is almost always underwhelming. You work for years, sometimes decades, and then one day you open your brokerage account and there it is, 7 figures. You have a moment, sure, but then life just keeps going. Your alarm still goes off the next morning. You still answer annoying emails. The dog still needs to go outside. Nobody throws you a parade. And this isn't just a feeling, it's backed by real research. One well-known wealth survey found that Americans said they'd need an average of $2.2 million to feel wealthy. And like I mentioned earlier, more recent data shows that number has climbed dramatically since then. The Federal Reserve has found something similar. Households with a high net worth often still report feeling financially insecure. In other words, you hit $1 million and suddenly the safe number in your head becomes 3 million, then 5, then 10. We are wired to keep moving the goalpost. Now, is that a reason to stop building wealth? Of course not. But if you're banking everything on the idea that one specific number will make you feel secure, you might be waiting a long time. That feeling of security tends to come from something internal, not from an account balance. Maybe that means building a genuine emergency fund. Maybe it means paying off a specific debt. Maybe it's building income streams you actually trust. Whatever it is for you, figure it out now, because chasing a moving number will keep you running for the rest of your life. Here's the second thing, and honestly, it's my favorite because it goes against everything social media tells you. The real path to becoming a millionaire is boring. Not bad, just boring, routine, repetitive, completely unsexy. Think about what the internet shows you. Hustling around the clock, massive risk-taking. Someone scaling a business while somehow also fitting in a 4 a.m. workout and a green juice. Now compare that to the actual data. Research going back to the classic book, The Millionaire Next Door, found that most American millionaires built their wealth through incredibly ordinary behavior. Automatic contributions to retirement accounts, month after month, for decades. Living well below their means. Investing in index funds and simply not touching them during downturns, paying off their home, avoiding catastrophic money mistakes. That's basically the entire playbook. 89% of millionaires are first generation, meaning they didn't inherit their wealth. 80% used a 401k to get there. And in a study of 10,000 millionaires, not a single person credited picking individual stocks as the key to their success. Not day trading, not the next big crypto pick, not some secret nobody else knew about. The boring approach is quite literally the winning approach. If your financial life feels uneventful right now, if you're just quietly contributing to the same accounts month after month with nothing exciting to post about, that's probably a good sign, not a bad one. Third thing. The first $100,000 is the hardest part of the entire journey. Before compounding really kicks in, you're doing all the heavy lifting yourself. But once you build that base, compounding starts doing a lot of the work for you. At a 7% average annual return, $100,000 generates about $7,000 a year without you lifting a finger. At $500,000, that's $35,000 a year. At $1 million, that's $70,000 a year, more than the median household income in this country, just from your money working while you sleep. So if you're in that early stage where it feels like nothing is happening, that's exactly what the beginning is supposed to feel like. You put in $100, you check the account a month later, and it barely looks different. That's the part that makes people quit. But the math doesn't care how you feel about it. The grind comes first. The acceleration comes later. Stay patient through the boring part, because it genuinely does not stay boring forever. Fourth thing, and this one surprises people every time. High income does not equal wealth. Let me give you two people. Jake earns $250,000 a year working in tech. Nice house, nice car, premium everything, eats out 4 nights a week, travels constantly. And honestly, from the outside, his life looks like the dream. He invests sometimes whenever there's money left over at the end of the month, but it's inconsistent and most months there just isn't much left. Then there's Maria. She earns $90,000 a year as a school administrator. Modest home, older car, she cooks most nights, keeps her lifestyle in check even as her salary has crept up over the years. She automatically invests 20% of her income every single month, rain or shine, and she's been doing that for 15 years straight without fail. Who do you think is closer to $1 million? It's almost certainly Maria, and it's not particularly close. This is why so many high-income households are financially fragile, even though their income looks impressive on paper. Your income is not your wealth. Wealth is what you actually keep. So the real number to obsess over is the gap, the space between what you earn and what you spend. The wider that gap, the bigger your financial buffer, and the more secure your position becomes. People love to say, I'll start investing once I make more money. But income is rarely the real problem. It's the habits built around it. So save a little when you make a little, and you'll naturally save more when you make more. Fifth thing, and this is where it gets interesting. A lot of people assume that once they have money, they'll finally feel safe. That's kind of the whole point, right? Exhale, relax, done. But behavioral research tells a different story. As wealth grows, people tend to develop brand new anxieties around money, anxieties they never had when they had less. A 20% market drop feels completely different when you have 1.2 million invested versus 40,000 invested. The number is bigger, so the emotional weight is heavier, and suddenly you're thinking about things like tax strategy and estate planning that never used to cross your mind. And there's actually a great example of how messy this research area used to be. Back in 2010, the Nobel Prize-winning economist Daniel Kahneman published a famous study claiming that happiness basically plateaus once you hit around $75,000 a year in income. That number got repeated everywhere for over a decade. Then in 2021, another researcher named Matthew Killingsworth published a study with the opposite conclusion, showing happiness kept climbing well past that point with no plateau at all. So which one was right? In 2023, instead of arguing forever, Kahneman actually teamed up with Killingsworth to figure out where the disagreement was coming from. And what they found was fascinating. For most people, happiness really does keep climbing. As income rises, no ceiling in sight. But for a smaller group of people who were already unhappy going in, their happiness did flatten out, right around $100,000 a year. So money keeps helping most people. It just stops being the fix for people whose unhappiness was never really about money in the first place. And that's the real lesson here. Wealth doesn't erase emotional problems, it just raises the stakes on them. There's actually a name for the specific feeling I've been describing this whole video, that sense of being financially behind even when your numbers look fine. Financial researchers have started calling it money dysmorphia, an ongoing feeling of financial insecurity that persists no matter how much your actual net worth grows, often fueled by scrolling through everyone else's highlight reel online. If you've ever felt like you should be doing better financially despite objectively doing fine, that's not a personal failure, and it's not you being ungrateful. That's a documented pattern, and you are far from the only one experiencing it. Sixth thing, and I've saved this one for the middle of the video on purpose because it's the one I care about most. Money will change the people around you. It doesn't have to change who you are, but it absolutely changes some of the people in your life, and I learned this one the hard way. When one of my projects started doing well, visibly well, a couple of old friends reached out wanting jobs. And that would have been completely fine if they'd said, hey, I noticed things are growing. Here's the value I think I could add. Instead, the message was basically, we're friends, so obviously you'll hire me. That stings, because it doesn't feel like someone believing in what you built. It feels like being treated as a resource. And then there's the one I still think about. A friendship was already falling apart for unrelated reasons, and in the middle of that, this person looked at me and said something like, well, I hope you're not planning on moving, because we could really use someone in your tax bracket around here. Not I'm sorry. Not I value you. Just a comment about my tax bracket. In that moment, I understood that this person wasn't looking at me anymore. They were looking at a number. And here's the thing, this isn't just my experience. Research published in the Journal of Economic Psychology found that wealth gaps between friends create real social friction, and the wealthier person in that friendship usually ends up managing that tension completely alone. It's also worth mentioning that this pressure doesn't only show up after you're wealthy. Recent survey data shows that around 2/3 of Gen Z, along with a large share of millennials, already feel like they're falling behind financially just from comparing themselves to what they see online. So this comparison problem exists at every income level. It just changes shape as your net worth grows. My honest take is that money acts like a magnifying glass. If you're generous and kind, having more resources lets you be even more generous and kind. But if someone around you had a character flaw you hadn't noticed yet, one that was maybe hiding just fine when there was nothing to gain from you, money will expose it. It hurts to find out, it really does. But once you know, and you can't really unknow it. So be intentional about who you let into your inner circle. Make sure the people close to you see all of you, the whole person, not just your balance sheet savant thing, and this one is underrated. A huge number of millionaires aren't wealthy because they made some brilliant move. They're wealthy because they consistently avoided a handful of financial disasters. Lifestyle inflation that outpaces income growth. Divorce, which statistically wipes out a significant chunk of net worth for both people involved. Panic selling during a market downturn, debt that spirals out of control, addiction, financial or otherwise. Repeatedly bailing out or co-signing loans for other people. None of that sounds glamorous. It's really just the discipline of not blowing up your own plan. But for a lot of people, that discipline is the actual strategy. Some of the best financial decisions you'll ever make are the ones you simply didn't make. So let's turn all of this into something you can actually use. 6 steps you can start on today. Number 1, detach the feeling of safety from a specific number. If your entire plan depends on hitting some magic figure before you finally relax, revise that plan today. Build habits that make you feel secure regardless of your account balance, whether that's practicing gratitude, doing regular financial check-ins, or paying down debt. Number 2, automate the boring stuff, then leave it alone. Set up automatic contributions to your 401k, your IRA, and your brokerage account, and stop checking them every day. The less you interfere emotionally, the less room there is for a panicked decision, and these accounts are exactly what build most millionaires in the first place. Number 3, track your savings rate, not your income. Your paycheck can feel like wealth because it's spendable, but wealth is what you actually keep. Pay attention to the gap between what comes in and what goes out, and invest that difference consistently. Number 4, be intentional about who knows your business. You don't owe anyone a running update on your net worth, not your extended family, not your coworkers, not the group chat. Stay private as your wealth grows, and let the people who genuinely show up for you, the ones who cared about you before there was anything to gain, stay close. Number 5, find a fee-only fiduciary financial planner before you actually need one. Wealth gets complicated fast, taxes, estate planning, asset allocation, and it's much easier to navigate that complexity with help before it becomes stressful and expensive to fix. Don't wait until you're already overwhelmed to ask for guidance. Number 6, obsess a little over that first $100,000. If you're early in your journey, make that milestone your primary target, the one thing you're willing to be a little relentless about. It's the hardest part of the entire process, but once you hit it, compounding starts doing real work for you, and everything after that gets a little easier, both financially and emotionally. So here's my honest takeaway. Building wealth is genuinely worth doing. I'm not trying to talk you out of it, and nothing I said today is an argument for giving up. It creates options, security, and the ability to help the people and causes you actually care about. But the version social media sells you, the dramatic finish line, and the sudden rush of confidence, that's not real for most people. More often it's quiet, it's slow, and sometimes it's a little lonely. And I genuinely think that version deserves just as much airtime as the highlight reel, because if you go in expecting fireworks, the silence can feel like failure when it isn't. Yes, the moment can feel underwhelming. Yes, anxiety can show up in new forms you didn't expect. Yes, some relationships will shift and some of that will hurt. But it's still worth building, and I hope this gave you a more honest picture of what that actually looks like, so none of it catches you off guard. So tell me, what's something about building wealth that genuinely surprised you, good or bad? Drop it in the comments, I read every single one. If you got something out of this video, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you know someone chasing their own financial goals, send this their way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.